smell. You got to smell this. You got to smell this. Seriously.
No, you're doing this only because I interrupted you, and now you're. Come on.
No, it smells really good. I just want. Yeah.
Ooh, that is nice.
You smell that?
Yeah. No, my
Aberfeldy 12.
I should have waited for you to finish the thought. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. No. I've been planning. I told you, I've been planning to interrupt you this entire time. I was just waiting for the right moment to do it.
Thank you.
So this week on Erik and Matt Like It, we are going to talk about one of my personal favorites. Okay. I don't think I could ever get tired of watching this ad. And I know that's high praise, right? And I know I'm telegraphing the past here, but I don't even care because we'll find a way to keep this interesting. All right. So it is, it's a commercial by a language company. All right. They teach you how to speak a new language, Berlitz. All right. And that's all I'm going to say because I feel like we just need to watch it.
Das hier ist mein Sektor. Das hier ist das wichtigste Gerät des Küstenwächters. Das Gerät und das Gerät. Überlebensradar.
Mayday, Mayday. Hello, can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you... Over. We are sinking. We are sinking.
Hello? This is the German Coast Guard.
We are sinking. We're sinking.
What are you thinking about?
Oh man, can we watch that? I know we shouldn't, but I just want to watch that again. Like seriously, I don't even want to talk about it. I just want to watch it over and over again.
I mean, we can. We might have to edit that out, but maybe we should.
Come on, man. There's just like, there's almost nothing to it, right? It's so simple, all right? It is set up so well. You have no idea it's going to happen. And then when it happens, you're like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. It's such a dad joke. And it's just like, boom, right?
No, it's like, right. It's obviously funny. I think there's a couple of like neat little nuances. I just love that it starts with him sitting down. To me, like he's clearly new to the job, right? Like he's being trained or whatever, and he like around, like
taking it in.
We've all been there, like in our lives where we're like nervous as hell about something, and then something happens, and you're like, oh shit, I actually have to do this job. And your brain the gears just stop because you're just not ready for it.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
About.
Yeah, it's real fun. I mean, yeah. So on the surface, like just first blush, it's super simple. And you think like, okay, they're just making a stupid joke. All right. They're just making a stupid joke. But when you start to really consider it and dissect it, you start to realize, wow, this is actually extremely layered. It is very sophisticated. They put a lot of thought into this thing. And of course, we are going to go into way too much detail about this because that's what we do, right? Because we're dorks like that. But so a couple of things I just point out on the surface, right? So it's definitely a very likable ad. You like the character, okay? You feel empathy for the character. Yes, he's getting shown around, and there's the complexity. And of course, it's kind of silly because you're like, okay, in a situation within any Coast Guard for any nationality, that is not going to be the training provided. Okay, clearly that's not going to be the training. So you're starting to anticipate or build up like something's happening here, right? So there is some sort of conflict brewing, right? And you're thinking to yourself like, okay, well, what's going to happen? You're starting to brace yourself, though maybe not terribly consciously, right? For me, I love hearing Germans speak German. All right. Like there's something about it. It's a very interesting language. I don't know a ton about languages, but you speak to people that do, and they'll tell you German is a very interesting language, has a lot going on. There's a lot of words that don't necessarily translate well over to English. Very unique words like Gemütlichkeit, right? Which is some type of like comfort, pleasant kind of feeling experience. The word Schadenfreude, which basically translates to shameful joy, right? When you see something bad happen to somebody else and you kind of feel good about it. And we can all identify with that, but I don't know that there's really a great word in the English language for that. We have to use two English words, shameful joy, to do what they do in one word, all right? So anyway, so I think that's just the German language is interesting, and hearing Germans speak their native tongue is very interesting and fun to me. It's a fun sounding language. And maybe that's because I'm American English speaking, and maybe that's why I perceive it that way. But also, I love to hear someone who has a German accent speak English. That is just a lot of fun for me. All right. Like I love the sound. It sounds fun and friendly. And this guy, and is he a ginger, right? Has he got kind of like reddish hair, a little bit red? I'm just thinking that anyway. There's something about this guy that's just so friendly and like non-threatening looking. He's got that baby face, and he has this high-pitched voice, kind of like, I just love it. Like this guy is so likable. I want to hang out with this dude. All right. So I feel like they're really setting you up to feel empathy for this guy. And then of course, he's thrown in the worst possible scenario. It's literally his first minutes on the job. He was shown how to do it, clearly barely remembers any of it probably. And now Mayday, come on, like it's just the perfect scenario. And then, it's the dad joke, and then that's hilarious. And you might think like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. And like, you should learn how to speak a different language, and you should know how to do it well. And Berlitz can help you do that. So on the top level, it totally works. If that's all you get about it and experience the fun of it and the humor, I think it's going to help, and it's memorable. So you might take that away. If you see it enough, through media, you'll remember that it's Berlitz and not some other, which Berlitz, by the way, I believe is a German company as well. All right. So they've got that going for them. There's that connection. So that's that level, right? And there's another level below. Before we go there, what is your take on the surface level and any of the stuff that I just, rambled on about?
I'm just going to go with ditto. No, you summed it up beautifully, right? And that's, the surface level stuff is, obviously what you're seeing, right? And I think there's a fine, or not a fine line, right? There's a difference between having an idea to tell this joke and then executing it in such a way that actually creates like this emotional bond, like you described, right? Like you're feeling this empathy for him in a very short period of time. Like this could have been a great joke and a terrible ad if it was done just a little bit differently, right? Where they didn't pay attention to those things. They just got any old actor. He didn't have the baby face. He didn't have the kind of like higher pitched voice. If he was just like, because, just like any culture, there's like obviously stereotypes, right? And I think one of the German stereotypes is that man who's, really deep booming voice and, really stern looking.
Well, the guy who's the older gentleman with the beard who's showing him around, like he's kind of that, right? Yeah. He slaps him on the back,
Right. So, I think it was, obviously well thought out beyond just the joke. And I think a lot of the time, especially in today's world, we tend to rely on humor to make the entirety of our point, to really grab the attention. And then we sort of, how often do you see it in ads, right? Where, yeah, it's funny, but I'm never going to remember that brand because it's, the joke took over, right?
Yeah.
Their product is intertwined with the joke. Like it is, it's there, right?
Yeah, you're right. And I think that's one of those, that layer that it hits you at is like, they're being silly, but they're they're using hyperbole, right? They're using an extreme situation to say, hey, it is important to be able to speak another language. And when you do that, it might be a life or death situation. These people are sinking, and he thinks they're pondering life, right? So like it's silly, it's stupid, but they're making the bigger, deeper, truer point. To your point about it needs to be true. Yeah, it's silly, but it's true. They're making a true point. It could really matter, right? So yes, this isn't just like you should learn a different language and learn how to do it well so that you can order properly when you go to, Europe, or whatever, at a cafe. No, this is like, this could be life or death. It really matters. This is existential stuff.
Even though nobody's.
No. But the point is they're still trading on it, which is good, right? They know their stuff. They're like, these people were not hacks. They didn't just get in a room and say, like, let's create a funny commercial. They really tailored it in such a way to deal with important themes, so I want to give them credit for that. But what I think is something that really makes the spot and has a lot of subconscious or below the kind of the surface layer value is the end of the spot and what happens at the end of the spot. So one is great editing, right? So the joke lands and then boom, they cut. And now the music turns on. And what work is that we're listening to? Do you know what song they selected?
I can hear it in my head. I don't know like who that, I'm not cultured enough to know that. Is it
okay?
The remember the drink milk commercials?
Oh, the Got Milk commercials?
It was a little bit before that, I think, or maybe right after. The
lesser known drink milk campaign.
Well, somewhat, yeah.
And they're like, you don't really need to drink it. You just have to have it.
Drink milk. Like they did it, I don't know the actual lyrics at this point.
Oh yeah, yes. Now I do remember. And I think it may be the same. Okay, so let me tee it up for you. Okay, you tell me if you can get it, right? So it's a choral symphony, all right? It is considered the greatest work of this particular composer, okay? It, by critics, is considered a supreme achievement in the history of music and mankind. That's a direct quote from Wikipedia, by the way, so you know that that's solid, okay?
Sure.
It is the most performed symphony. It is the first, he was the first major composer to use voices in a symphony, in this symphony. And it was written or composed between 1822 and 1824, and he did it while he was deaf.
Okay, so Beethoven.
It's Beethoven's Symphony Number 9 in D minor, and it is because that's like 24 or 26. It's like long, okay. And this is the fourth movement, which is referred to as Ode to Joy.
No, my high school music teacher is like just beside himself right now if he's watching him. I'm sorry, Mr. Tudini. I should have known that. What are you going to do? I'm sure you're not surprised.
And that, folks, is the hard-hitting, real stuff that you can come to expect from Erik and Matt Like Edge. We get serious. This is kind of like a confessional booth, I would think, of sorts.
Oh yeah.
Here's the thing. Like, I learned all of this because I Googled it, right? My younger brother, Michael, he graduated from the Crane School of Music, and he would know all this stuff because he is a musician and very accomplished in the flute and the piano. And he knows all this sort of stuff. And I thought about it as I was Googling it in preparation for this. I'm like, I should have just called Michael and asked him about this, but it was too late to do that. So Michael, I know I've disappointed you and let you down. And I want to apologize. You're my brother and I love you. Having said that, yeah, so Beethoven, Ludwig van Beethoven, Symphony Number 9 in D minor, Ode to Joy movement. Ode to Joy, a poem by Friedrich Schiller, All right. And this is not, I would like to propose to the jury, this is not some incidental, accidental musical choice, but this was calculated. It was premeditated.
Oh, good. So this is going somewhere.
I'm putting this trial on trial. Having said that, yeah, so of course it's always going somewhere. I may walk around the world to get to the outhouse, but I'm always going to get to the outhouse, Matthew.
Okay.
So yeah, so I think that they did this very intentionally. Okay, so Ludwig von Beethoven, a German composer, Berlitz, a German company, commercial German-speaking individual. All right, these are not accidents. Okay, these are not accidents. And then when you look at, but they could have chosen any German composer, but they did not. They chose Beethoven. They could have chosen any Beethoven symphony or concerto or whatever the frick it is that you call these things, right? But they didn't. Symphony number 9 in D minor, Opus 125. I didn't say that earlier because I wasn't exactly sure the significance of Opus 125. Michael, if you want to chime in on that in the comments, feel free. I mean, I know my brother's not actually watching this, but were he to, he would be able to do that. So they didn't, though. They chose this specific, and they chose a specific movement from it, Ode to Joy. Of course, it's super famous. And so I think we talked about with the Snickers stuff, the familiarity of likable celebrities is to your benefit as an advertiser when you associate that with your product. So I think, yes, Beethoven's well-loved. He's famous. This is the most famous symphony, the most performed symphony. And people know it. And it's certainly that big movement, like it makes you feel really good. Dun, dun, dun. You're like, oh my gosh, we're all going to heaven, which is the point of the poem, by the way, that Friedrich Schiller composed and that Beethoven based the lyrics of this on. But when you look at the lyrics, the words of the poem, you find lines like, all people become brothers, to be a friend's friend, all creatures, all of the just. Let's see here. Be embraced millions. These are the lines of this poem that are being sung. And what are they talking about? They're talking about the, humanity, mankind, the separation of mankind, dissolving. It is a spiritual song, okay? And I'm not trying to get spiritual here, but the point of the words is about it dissolving and humankind coming together in unity. What is one of the greatest barriers to unity in this life, right?
Language.
Of course, it's our inability to communicate with each other and understand each other. I think this is freaking brilliant, completely not an accident. I think Berlitz did this on purpose. I think they knew this, or if they didn't, that is just more of that what we call accidental magic that happens when you create a work of art, which I think ads that are really great are works of art. So I did not know this going into it, but when I heard it was Beethoven's 9th, I'm like, okay, I just got to see if there's something there. It's like you see the rabbit go down the hole and you're like, I'll just follow it to see where that rabbit's going, right? And this is where the rabbit took me. Anyway, so yeah, I think it's brilliant. I mean, holy crap. These people are pros. I once learned, and then I'll kick it back to you, but I once learned that specificity sells the truth even if you're lying through your teeth.
Yeah.
When you have no details to something, people are not going to believe you. But you can be telling that officer the reason why you're lurking in this dark corner is because, you saw this person run back here and then they looked like they weren't feeling well. So you followed them and then your shoe was untied and you dropped your wallet. At a point, they're going to be like, look, whatever, buddy, just like get out of here. Right.
Sure. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. No, and it genuinely was a joke. That was all very, very good information. Whether or not it was purposefully done, I think I'm not so sure about that. I like to think that it was because it's great. Like, I mean, that is a great answer as to why they selected that song. I think there's a possibility that it is just jarring enough at that point, but right. like they could have picked any jarring song, any, you know, that is like that. Like you're absolutely right. Even if they knew they wanted to do something, you know, like classical music sounding, they could have picked any German or anybody, right? Like they didn't even need to make that connection if they didn't want to. I think that's kind of a, you know, it's a brilliant nuance that you figured out there. That, like I would have never come up with that personally, because I just wouldn't have done the research on that. As I showed you earlier, my notebook is empty for this episode. But like, I just want to bring it back to Alamo Draft House. They sort of did a very similar thing with a very different song, where, you know, like the joke ends, right? And obviously it wasn't like a one-liner that they were doing. It was like they were poking fun at the drunk girl who was texting in the movie theater. And then they just like, boom, hit you with a wall of music, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, so I think that there's like, I mean, there's definitely something impactful about that. Like it forces you to, like, here's where we're introducing you to our brand, right? Like so far, our brand hasn't been a part of this. And Berlitz is. Alamo Draft House obviously had a little bit in there. But there's nothing there. You know, you're watching this joke and then boom, like here, you know, here we are. And I think part of it is just grabbing that attention again, right? Like making sure that it's like, oh, ha, ha, ha. You know, because if you heard the joke, the punchline, you start talking to somebody about it, you know, boom. Berlitz, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it accomplishes that, very well put. I think it accomplishes that thing we also talked about before, which would, just when you think the ad is over, it's not over. So the ad could have ended there and it would have been fine because the joke lands. It's true to the point of the product. Know your shit, learn it, right? Know it well. Yeah. Berlitz will help you do that. But then they hit you with that wall music. So yes, it's jarring, it's unpredictable, but it also like, it gives that extra like, oh, and now I got the good feels of Beethoven's Ninth, right? And it's, you know, so I think that, it does what you said and also extends the entertainment value and the emotional value of the experience.
So now I just got to figure out if that drink milk commercial was an actual commercial or if it's just something that was in my brain from a child, you know, from my childhood that didn't actually exist.
I feel like it's not from your childhood. I feel like they produced it like 9 to 12 months ago and it's been airing like, I feel like I've seen something like this not that long ago. And I could be wrong about this because, like, you know, memory, as we know, is very faulty and we create memories that aren't actually there. Right. But yeah, I think it may be way more recent than that. Yes.
Like it.
I don't know. Here's the thing. Okay, homework assignment, buddy. Go for it. You know,
I'm gonna figure it out. That'll be one that we need to do.
So something occurred to me though, just in the course of this episode, and I wanted to share it. I changed my name for my little Zoom thing to Ludwig. Right for this, it should have been Ludwig van Erik. I should have said that. I should have done that, but I realize now, and now it's too late.
Bummer.
I'm really having some real regret and remorse here.
I mean, maybe someday I will find the strength to be comforting enough to help you through this, but I don't know that I'm there yet.
Some paths you just have to walk alone, Matt. I realize that. I do understand. This is my burden. This is my burden.
I really want to be there. Erik,
well, this is a virtual thing we're doing, so it's kind of tough for you to do that, you know.
Spirit, come on. This is great.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What are you thinking about? I know it's not funny. It's not funny. It's not good. It's bad. It's bad podcast. That's bad podcast. Chill, kids. That's bad podcast. This is why you want to go to school. Because if you don't go to school, you're going to do stupid crap like that on a podcast.
Yeah, man.
No, see what we do. But this is how you get the kids to do the thing, right? Because they don't want to do the thing that you tell them not to do. So what we're really doing is we're encouraging an entire generation of children not to apply themselves at school so they can end up like you and I, living the dream.
Yeah. I mean,
did you ever learn how to speak a foreign language? Can you speak a second language?
No, I cannot. I absolutely cannot. I took however many, I mean, we started Spanish in the 5th grade, I believe. And I know nothing. Now, no, okay. I know palabra a tu madre, which is word to your mother. and that's it. Really,
that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't either. No, I can't either. Also took some Spanish in middle school, though. We didn't start that early. Took it in middle school for a couple years. And, retained very, very little of it. And looking back, I'm like, man, but like a lot of things in my life, looking back and regretting that I would have done things differently, maybe were I to have applied myself a little bit more. But I, of course, as my mother would tell you, was too busy trying to be Mr. Cool. Did your parents ever say shit like that, like in your house? Like, if you weren't so busy trying to be Mr. Cool.
I mean, what a fucking waste of time that was.
Anyway, I love you, Mom. No,
you can't open me up like that, man. Like, why would you spend any time trying to be Mr. Cool? It's just impossible. Anyway. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I apologize.
Yeah, I think about a minute and a half ago is when everybody stopped watching, just so you know.
This is for us. So.
Yeah, this is for us.
Cool.
I'll tell you, dude, liking ads is hard work, all right? And so that's what happens when you like ads, you're going to blow out the elbows. I mean, it's pretty kind of a cliche, Yeah.
I mean, we work real hard.
Yep. This is why you want to stay in school, kids. You don't want to end up like us. I'll tell you that, because you need to go to school because you need, yeah, right. That's what happens when you don't go to school. Actually, you end up in advertising. Those that can't do teach, and those that can't teach make ads.
Apparently.